Welcome to episode 14 of the Powerful Women Off the Record podcast. Today is my reflections on Reverend Denise Walden-Glenn. Reverend Denise is the CEO and executive servant leader of Urban Christian Ministries. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. She gave me so much to think about. I wrote down so many quotes that she said that have stuck with me, and just really good reminders for all of us. But let me tell you a little bit about Denise. I met Denise a few years ago, and she's done a lot of work in nonprofits, and really hard work, working with communities that are going through the biggest challenges, and I think mostly troubled youth. And she's a mom. She's been there for her family. She's been there, for the community. She's really an amazing woman, and she has this energy about her. And listen, I've been in a lot of boardrooms, conference rooms, a lot of tough places, we'll just say. And when I first met Denise, and she was walking into a big meeting with her team, and taking her spot at the head of the table at the conference room, like I felt her before she even walked in. And then when she started speaking and leading the meeting, I have to say, like, she has this energy. I was a little scared, not scared, but it was like, wow, like I would not mess with this woman. There is something about her, this strength, this intensity, she's always supporting an important mission, right? And an important passion, taking care of somebody, taking care of troubled youth. And, honestly, I think if God walked in the room and was picking their team, would probably pick Denise. Denise would make the team. She would definitely be in the first rounds, because I just think when she's committed to a mission or a passion, she's going to protect that, and she's going to do whatever it takes to make that come to fruition. Sometimes I think, to her own detriment, like all of us, right? When we take it a little bit too far and we're not taking care of ourselves enough in the midst. But, she had some really, really good advice on a lot of different things. And she talks about growing up and her environment and her neighborhood. A lot was expected of her, and she had to put on that tough exterior. We talk a lot about that as women, right? Where, she mentions nature versus nurture. And it's like, was I born that way? Or, did the world just make me that way so that I could survive and I could make a difference? Like, did I have to become more yang? Did I have to just change a little bit in order to be impactful in this world, right? Because it's all well and good, but we want to be ourselves, right? We want to be authentic. We also are driven by something that we need to accomplish, right? We want to bring into this world. And when you're in a pretty yang world, I think sometimes we take that on. And honestly, in the past, maybe it is the only way. It was maybe not the only way, but it was the main way to get things done. And I feel something shifting, though. And I think we're all going to have to get used to it. But like Denise said, like she didn't want to function from that area anymore. She wanted to function more from the yin, from the divine feminine. And she had to unwind that. And she talks about it's a process where you have to, things are going to come up, right? Something's going to present itself. You're going to react the way that you normally would. And you have to try to catch yourself in that moment and make a different choice. And, she talked about in that moment, instead of just going along and letting the momentum take you, to pause and reclaim who you want to be. Reclaim how you want to be. And don't just let momentum and the past always rule you, right? And she was, she was very realistic. She's like, it's not going to happen right away. You're going to be presented with it over and over and over again. And it's not quite a test. It's more practice, I guess. And she used the phrase, she said, reclaim what you have chosen for yourself and not what this moment is trying to pull you into. Like, feel the power of that. Reclaim what you have chosen and not just what the moment is trying to pull you into. And when you go down this path, it is tricky in the beginning, right? Because your frequency attracts things and you're still running that old frequency. So the old stuff's going to appear for a while, and it can get really frustrating and discouraging. Like, why am I dealing with this again? Like, I thought I already dealt with this. But it's because you haven't fully anchored in the new frequency. Like, hopefully that makes you feel better. You've touched it, right? You've touched the new frequency of who you want to be, of how you want to act, how you want to come across. You've touched onto it, you've seen it, but you maybe haven't fully embodied it yet. So it's just a frequency game. And I think the more I grasped that, the more confidence I got that I could overcome that and I could change that, and that it might just take a little while. It's a process. And she talked about like a lot of people talk about the illusion of time, and she talks about overcoming the lie of time. Loved how she worded that. And so she said, if you're feeling a pull to something different, lean into that. And don't worry about time and what's behind you. Focus, because that is the spirit telling you there is more ahead of you than you know. Overcome the lie of time. That's super powerful, right? Where I'm guilty of that, right? Where it's like, can I do something new, like this far along in my career? Or when will I find the time to do XYZ? Or, it's that time has passed. Whatever it is, time. Give way too much power to this concept of time. And if you start thinking, a lot of people talk about the illusion of time. She's saying the lie of time, even stronger, right? And so almost like it's been used to discourage us or I don't know. It just feels a little bit stronger than the illusion of time. So I'm going to be with that a little bit longer. I certainly find myself like rushing through the day, thinking I'm not going to get everything done. I got to do something faster. And these are all my own deadlines that I'm setting, and I'm putting my own pressure on myself. I mean, sometimes it is your employer putting that pressure on, but you got to really, if you're listening to this, just really try to take a pause and focus on your self-awareness when you're feeling that pressure, when your breath has become shallow, you find yourself rushing. You find yourself not enjoying the moment with your kids or the sunset or that dinner with someone you love or whatever it is, because you're thinking about the other things you got to get done and there's not enough time. How many things does that illusion of time, that lie of time, steal from us? So I definitely want to give that more energy when I'm paying attention to it. Another word she used that stuck with me, we talk a lot about manifesting. We talk about the law of attraction. She said sometimes you just have to command what you want and trust that it's going to happen. Again, like, feel the power of that word command. And I wish we could all start paying more attention to the words we use, because some words are weak and some words are strong. I do get concerned. One of the things I get concerned about with AI is it's homogenizing a lot of our words. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of speakers and teachers tend to be saying the same words. And it's like, there's so many more words out there. Why are we all saying the same words? What's going on there? So anyways, I'm actually trying to bring back older words, words that just feel like they have power that we haven't used in a while. And when she says you have to command what you want, man, feel that, right? You're not asking, you're not begging, you're not coming from a place of lack. You're commanding it. You're like, this is my world. This is my illusion, my matrix. And I am commanding that XYZ happens. And then trusting that it's going to. So I'm going to play with that too. I want to start getting a little bit stronger on that front. And I'm going to be with that word command. One tricky thing we talked about, and I don't know if this resonates with you. Tell me if it does. It definitely resonates with me. And I didn't really understand this for a while. So something would happen, a change is made, letting go of something, making a move, and there's that grieving process of what could have been, that grieving process of the plans you had made. And when you start making plans like that, especially if you put a lot of emotion, I believe timelines start, almost like branches of a tree come out of potential future timelines. And so when you make a big change, it's almost like, you've cut that tree limb off and you're creating a new one. A new one is growing, but there's that time period of a loss. And there is a grief to that. And I think grief is a very tricky emotion. It's slippery. I think it's very slippery. And I know it's part of the human experience to feel grief. And, they say it comes in waves. And that is so true. I think we all have the person. There's just like this. There's a lot of people we're going to love in our life, but there is the person that when they're no longer with us, a piece of you, feels gone. And that is grief, right? Isn't grief crazy like that? It literally feels like a piece of you is missing. And so I think, we do an okay job thinking about that when we lose a person we love or a pet that we love. And we know we got to work through that grief. But what about when we change? Even though that old version of us wasn't serving us anymore, in fact, it maybe was starting to, make things go the wrong way, we grieve that person. I mean, our bodies do at least, right? And maybe we don't address it and we don't deal with it. But there is a grief to letting go of something that doesn't serve you. You may still love the person. You may still love the job. You may still love the home. Whatever it is that you just know in your heart you have to change. So I guess I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I try to not judge that grief. And I also try to not stuff that grief away, because it's a little bit easier to deal with that kind of grief than, when you lose the person you love or the pet that you love. But this other grief is still very powerful if you don't deal with it, because grief is grief to the body. It's just going to store it somewhere, and you're going to be dealing with it later in a very strange way. So just honor that, I guess. I'm just going to say, I think it's important we honor what we're letting go of, even if it was a negative aspect of ourselves. We're still letting go of something. There's still a loss there, and that, that grief will come. Denise talks about spiritual resiliency. And the word resiliency is also a very powerful word. And sometimes I think it's one of the best gifts you can give your children is if you can teach them resiliency. That no matter what happens, they're going to figure it out. And so you're not naive that everything is going to go your way. They did a really interesting study about kids that grew up watching anime compared to kids that grew up like watching Disney and other animation movies, shows. And I don't know if everyone knows this about anime. I knew very little about anime in the US. I don't know how it's super popular, don't get me wrong, but it's also not super mainstream. But my kids got into anime, and I like to often watch things that my kids watch, so we have something to talk about and share ideas with. And a lot of the animes I did find myself really enjoying. And what they learned about with this study is that a lot of the animes do not paint the world as perfect. The characters are always overcoming something and facing some sort of loss and getting back up. And whereas in a lot of other shows that kids have grown up with, sometimes a loss can just take them down or completely change their lives. But often in anime, it is obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and they deal with it without a lot of drama, and they just accept it as a part of life. So anyways, that was a total meandering, but if you haven't watched the anime, you may want to give it a shot. You have to watch like 3 or 4 episodes, at least I had to, before I could get used to the cadence and the colors and the style of animation and the way they talk and the way they handle things. But once the storyline kicks in, it's normally pretty cool. So there's quite a few out there. If you want to know some good ones, let me know. I'll let you know. I'll send you a DM. So she talks about spiritual resiliency, and basically it's I guess you could boil it down to, a lot of stuff happened to you. A lot of bad stuff has happened. But guess what? You're still here, which means you won, right? And so that means you were stronger than all those obstacles. And maybe you don't always feel that way. Like maybe, you're tired. You're like, man, I got beat up pretty good. But you know what? Guess what? You're still here. So I guess I'm here to say, if you feel like that, you won. Like you won, which means you are stronger than whatever came after you, right? And you'll see this one as one of her quotes. She said, "You're bigger than everything you have overcome. You're bigger than everything that you've been through. And you're bigger than everything that has come against you. Because you're still here." Right? So like sometimes you got to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, that was hard, but guess what? We did it, And then, the point is today, then, like she said, you decide what you want to do with it. And how do you let it become fuel for your future? So it's not a wound that you're limping around with. It's not a broken heart. It's a heart that got hurt. But as we know, it's a muscle. And you can't really permanently break a muscle, right? It grows, it heals, it eventually heals itself, it rebuilds. So I guess I'm talking to you. If you're here listening to this, I'm just here to remind you that you're bigger than everything that has happened to you. So get back up, dust yourself off, and you should have some more confidence walking into the future, because you've already been through a lot. You've already seen a lot. Check it off the list, right? And you're still here. So you're stronger now. And you have to remind yourself that those difficult times made you stronger, not weaker. We shouldn't be getting weaker from that. And she talks a lot about that. No matter how it played out, God knew how it was going to play out. And that means like there was no way you failed. It was already known what you were going to do, but it was still something important for you to go through. So I think that's just really important to try to shake that dust off from the past and again, use it for fuel for your future. She kicks off the conversation But when she was a very little girl, I think about so many steps to this process. Very little girl, it was school picture day. Mom, gave her the check to bring in. We've all been there, right? I think in the past that's all they took were checks. And for some reason, the photographer wouldn't take the check, so she was walking home with it to give it back to her mom or her grandma, sorry. And she just had this moment, and I think she was 8, 9, 10, 11. She was young, where she's like, no, it's time that me and my neighbors and my friends, stop with this lack, because she didn't grow up with much. And she saw other people having much, and her and her family didn't, and her neighborhood didn't. And, she walked up to, I just can see this, right? This little girl with her team of friends walk up to the counter of this shopkeeper and slams the check down and says, get them whatever they want. I think about that moment because depending on who that shopkeeper was, right? They would have been like, no, go bring this back to your mom. And that moment would have been stopped. But I believe all of this happens for a reason. But who was that shopkeeper? It was somebody that was close to her grandmother. And so he let it play out. I mean, he called the grandmother and said, hey, just so you know, this is what your granddaughter's doing. And I'm sure she caught hell for it when she got home. But he let it play out. And she talks about it now. Think about it. Like, how many decades later she remembers that moment as the moment she first felt her power. What a gift that, I think God plants angels in our path in the most unusual way. And that is just such a perfect example of he let her go through with it. She felt her power, and it changed her at a very young age. So thank you to that gentleman that did that and let that play out. And maybe someday we'll be in a position like that where we can help a young person feel their power in a safe way, right? So I don't know, that visual just keeps sticking with me. I don't know about you, but I think it's really fantastic. So I feel like I could listen to Denise. I'm probably going to have her on again to talk more about, these different experiences she has. Because, she does some really hard work, right? And she's really trying to help the at-risk youth before it goes too far, and I've learned anyone can change. It's just a little bit easier to change if you can get to them when they're younger, and there's a certain age range that those odds improve. And I know that's what her mission is to show them another way. She talked about that, where it's hard to have hope when you don't, have a role model or see it playing out around you. That is such a big deal. I mean, it's just, I think it's bigger than we realize. I mean, if you've grown up and you had people around you that were a good role model or gave you hope or something to strive for, and a lot of the women that I've spoken to had that. They had a relative or a neighbor or somebody showed them another way of living and gave them hope. And I actually had that too. I want to give out a shout out to, she's no longer with us, but a woman that came into my family's life. And I grew up in a very kind of old-fashioned Italian run household, and I was the only girl, and which you know how that's going to play out. So I was the one that had to clean up after the boys, and they would sit there while we would serve them. And back then, there's no internet and social media, so I didn't know there was any other way. Think about it. Think about how small our worlds were before the internet. And I don't know if the new generation can even comprehend that, but your world was just you, your family, your neighbors, and what you saw on 3 stations on television that was highly curated. Then this woman came into our lives, and ironically, she was a nun. She was a Catholic nun, but she was the most, she was the first feminist I met, I would say. And she was the first one that started showing me that maybe there was another way. And maybe there was another way to handle the dynamic in the family that, other people could participate in cleaning and everything else. So anyways, that's for another day, but she came to mind, and I want to give Sister Elaine Franz a big thank you, and definitely showed me another way. Took me a while to embrace it and to find my own power, but she found a way to break into a family dynamic and make some changes. So I hope you have people in your life for you. Maybe this is triggering somebody that did that for you. Send them some good energy. Maybe we can be that person for others around us, to give them hope, to show them there's another way, to pick them up when they're down, to just expand their horizons. And because hope is powerful, right? But if you don't think you're eligible for that type of a life, or you haven't seen it play out with somebody that looks like you, or acts like you, or talks like you, or came from your neighborhood, it can be really hard to use your imagination with that. So let's just keep pulling everyone up around us and putting our hands out to help them along and give them hope. That's what this podcast honestly is about, is just giving you some time to relax and listen to some women, very impactful women, that how they do it, what they think about, what's going on in their head when they're tired or when they're trying to find their motivation. Knowing it's not easy, knowing that they got back up, knowing that you're not alone. I hope this podcast can be that for you, and so that you stay in your power. And if you fall down, you don't stay down. We need you to get back up, like now. We really need good, strong women in important leadership positions. And I'm sure if you're listening, because that's my goal, is to attract women like that who are either currently in an impactful leadership position or on the trajectory of one. And I'm not saying those are always the obvious ones, right? They're not even, they might not even be C-suite. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in your world, whatever that is, in your community, in your neighborhood, in your nonprofit, in your department, in your office, in whatever, wherever you spend your time, we need good women to show up as leaders and be role models. And in order for them to do that, you need to be powered up, and you need to find your fuel. And I'm hoping these conversations can be a little bit of that for you. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for supporting this project of mine, this passion project of mine. Thank you for supporting these women. If you're getting anything out of it, please send it to some other women that might be of interest. Support these women and their organizations if you can, once you get to know them. And know that I'm thinking of you, and I'm thinking of how I can support you. Every time I'm finding another amazing woman to talk to, it's so we can talk about something that resonates for you. We can be that person for you. Thanks again. You've been listening to Powerful Women Off the Record podcast with Elizabeth Veely, and I'll see you next time.